Here's a little closer look at what I was talking about along the edge here, pulling out the outer edge of the wet wash with the dry brush. And that gives you this nice, nicely integrated edge. Now this is dry. I'm going to continue with more layers. Mixing some more neutral tint again with French ultramarine and a little bit of quinacridone yellow, gold I mean, quin yellow, quin gold, why do I always say yellow? Okay, some more neutral tint because I want this to be darker, and dry brush. Getting my trusty Uniball Signo white gel pen. And you'll notice whenever I'm doing any sort of dry brushing or fine line strokes, I'm always moving with the direction that I want the fur to go, because you want to keep that consistent. These little bits of detail are going to be noticeable in the larger picture if you are not consistent about it. And it shows up in jarring ways that might not be something that immediately is identified by your viewer, but it's definitely something that is noticeable in a drawing. So you have to be consistent in the way all your textures move. Soften out the edges of that gel pen whiteness. I also have a secondary gel pen that I use. This is also Uniball Signo, but this one is thicker and more opaque. The thinner one, I think the line is called Angelic. Yeah, there we go. It's there. Can you see it? There, Angelic. That's in focus now. Get the ink to run right now because this area is wet and thick, and so it's not coming out. I'm going to let that dry before I try applying the gel pen, I think. But I can get some over here on this part. And on this one, because this one's completely dry here, and a little bit over here going along the curve of the spine. So it gives me a highlight to run along. Blending it out. Integrating things. Okay, so speaking of integrating, I'm just trying to integrate this blob a little bit more because that's less defined than I thought it would be initially when I had not yet painted any of this other stuff. But by contrast now, it's no longer quite as there. So I'm going to do these little bits of dry brush. These are quick, short little strokes. It's still too wet to do any white on top of. Getting a little bit more Queen Gold into this blue mixture. So this is the reverse of what I did earlier, where I did the wash first and then I pulled out the boundary edge. This time I did the boundary edge first and then I'm doing a wash. I mean, you can go either way. This, going this direction gives you a little bit less, well, it gives you more control over where your boundary is, but less over how it blends in. I think that doing it the other way blends better. Doing a lot of back and forth here. Pulling out my edge once again. As well as bringing in some of this fur texture into the inner part of this tail. Now, I'm not covering his whole body with this fur texture, so I'm only using it in strategic areas. I'm allowing some parts to be this beautiful wet on wet blobby texture with a lot of the underlying stuff showing through, and in some places just kind of in the critical parts, like where I want to show the curve of the spine or some particular shadowed bits or boundaries. Those are the places where I'm bothering to do this dry brush texture. And it's this back and forth, this interaction of the two, the loose and the tight, which really gives the viewer interest in the piece. You don't want to have to depict every little hair, because that gets to be distracting. I mean, I guess that's nice for botanical art. It is what I do for botanical paintings, though. You depict every single little hair and blemish and spot. But that's a different thing. this bright white. There we go. Now I can do it. The pen was just not getting any traction on the wet paper layered with wet paint. But now I can. There we go. Adding definition for where all these tails meet the body. And some bit of deeper shadow right here. This kind of defines how the body is shaped, and these are the shadowed front paws. For all these deepest shadow areas, I'm just using pretty concentrated neutral tint. Depending on the painting, instead of neutral tint, sometimes I use bloodstone, which is a warmer gray. It's of almost brownish gray and highly granulating. And the other option is Payne's gray, which is the opposite. It's a bluish toned, bluish tinted gray. And neutral tint is right there in between the two of them. Something a little bit fun here. I'm going to give him golden spots. I didn't try this bronze before. Let's see how that looks. It's more of a warm-toned gold than the straight-out gold that I used earlier. I'm getting pretty chunky bits of it just to give him some spots. They're like golden freckles on his backside. Just little tiny bits there. I like that. That's pretty fun. almost done here. I think I just want to add a little bit more greenish shadows. Or not shadows, but little, yeah, I guess it is shadow. Emphasis along the outer edges over here, just to anchor things down a little bit better. And a little bit more emphasis around the eye, just to make that pop a little bit more. There we go. A little four-tailed fox spirit.